Okay, today we're going to be doing Module 1, Lesson 2, where we're going to continue to work on place value charts and multiplying and dividing numbers by powers of 10. Now, as a quick review before we get into the numbers, when we multiply something, we're going to make our product bigger. We're making a bigger number. So we're going to move our numbers to the left on the place value chart because we're making bigger numbers. Versus when we divide, we're going to move our numbers to the right because we're making a smaller number. So that's how we can tell which direction to move our numbers in. Now, the number of columns that we're going to move our numbers in depend on what we're multiplying them by. Are we multiplying them by 100, 10, 1,000, whatever it is? So if you're multiplying something by 10, you're going to move it by 1 column. If you're doing 100, it's going to be 2 columns. 1,000 will be 3 columns, and so on, because the numbers in the columns in our place value chart relate to the number of zeros we have. So 10 has 1 0, so we move it 1 column. 100 has 2 zeros, we move it 2 columns, because each one of our columns is worth a power of 10. So multiplying, we move to the left, dividing, we move to the right, and then the number of columns depend on how many zeros, how many tens we're working with. So let's do a couple practice problems. So, number 1A, 36,000 times 10. So the first thing we do is we fill out our place value chart. So 36,000 is going to start here. So we write the first number in our place value chart, 36,000. Now we're timesing, so we're going to move to the left because we're making a bigger number, and we're timesing by 10. So we're going to move 1 column, because remember that each of these is worth a times 10 each time we jump. So timesing by 110, we're going to move 1 over. So the 3 in the 10,000s becomes a 3 in 100,000s. And we're going to move each of our numbers over. Now we have a blank space right here, and we have to fill it because really 36,000 has a decimal and a 0. So it's really 36,000.0. And it goes on forever and ever and ever with all of these zeros. So we can imagine that this imaginary 0 also gets moved over. Basically, whenever there's a hole in our place value chart, you're going to plug it with a 0. So our 36,000 just became 360,000. So our answer is 360,000. Now, next one is division. So it's 36,000 again. And now it's divided by 10. So I'm still going to move it 1 column because I'm only dividing by 10, but because I'm dividing, my number is going to get smaller, so I'm going to move to the right. So this 3 jumps backwards to the thousands. It goes from 10,000s to 3,000, and all of my numbers then follow suit. So I end up with 3,600. Now that last little 0 there, after the decimal, this one, I moved my 0 over, so it still is there, but it is not required as part of my final answer. When it's just a 0.0, it's just a trailing 0 with no numbers to the right of it, you don't need to write it down. It still is correct if you do that, but it is not necessary to have that decimal there. So it's just 3,600. Okay, 2 more. Now we have decimal numbers, but we follow the same pattern. 4.54. We're going to write that on our place value chart, 4.54, or 4 54 hundredths. And we are timesing, so that means we're going to move to the left. And we're timesing by 1,000. Timesing by 1,000, well, 1,000 is really 10 times 10 times 10, because I have 1, 2, 3 zeros. And if I'm doing 10 times 10 times 10, that means it's 3 columns. So I'm going to move 1, 2, 3. Remember that we're looking at how many zeros, and that's how many columns. So this 4,1 becomes a 4,000. And that also makes sense mathematically, right? 4 times 1,000 will be 4,000. So we also move 3 columns for all of our other numbers. So make sure you skip over the decimal column. So 1, 2, 3. We don't count the decimal as one of our columns here. So I get 454 in a blank space. Remember that you need to fill in that blank space with a 0, because if we don't, our number would become 454, but really that 4 is in the thousandths place. So we need to pretend that there is a 0 here in the thousandths place, and that got moved over, and that 0 is now in the ones place. So 4 54 hundredths, or 4.54, times 1,000 is going to give me 4,540. Okay, last one for this is 3,045 and 4/10. So let's start by filling that out. 3,045.4. Okay. And we are dividing. So dividing, we're making a smaller answer. So we're going to go to the right, and we're dividing by 100. So remember, we're dividing by 100. That means we're really dividing by a 10 times a 10. So that is 2 columns. 2 zeros, 2 tens, 2 columns. So each of my digits here is going to move 2 columns to the right. So this 4 is going to become a 4, this 4/10 is going to become a 4,000ths. This 5 becomes a 500ths. This 4/10, everything gets shifted over 2 spaces to the right. So 3,045.4 becomes 30.454, or 30 and 454 thousandths, which makes sense mathematically because my answer should be getting smaller. My digits aren't going to be changing because I'm just dividing by a base 10. I'm just moving them across. Okay, so last one we're going to look at today. Ted says that 3/10 multiplied by 100 equals 30 or 300 thousandths. Is he correct? Use a place value chart to explain your answer. Okay, let me quickly add a place value chart that we can use. Okay. You can always draw one out really quickly in your notes as well. So Ted says that 3/10 multiplied by 100 equals 300 thousandths. So let's double check. 3/10 means that there's going to be a 3 in the tenths column. So 3/10 is really 0.3. 3 in the tenths. And I'm multiplying by 100. So I'm going to do times 100. Well, timesing means to the left because I'm making a bigger answer here. And I'm timesing by 100. So that's 2 zeros, 2 columns. So I'm going to do 1, 2. Okay, so that means the 3 becomes a 10. I fill in this hole with a 0. So I get 30 as my answer. So 3/10 multiplied by 100 is 30. He's saying 30 is 300 thousandths. So he's reading it in a different form. I need to write 300 thousandths in standard form. So let's write that out. 300 thousandths, meaning that 300 would fit in the thousandths place, but we know we can only put one digit in each place value chart. So my 300, I want the 0 in 300 to end in the thousandths place. So I always will fill out that place first because it's thousandths. I will write the last digit. The last digit of our number should end in that place. So I write the 0, and then I can fill in the rest of the number. So 0.300 is 3 thousandths. And I always like to put a sandwich 0 on the front. So is 30 the same thing as 0.3? Because we don't really need these because they're trailing zeros again. We can say that no, that 30 does not equal 0.3. So Ted is wrong. And this is our way of explaining our answer. Ted is wrong. 30 does not equal 0.03. So that is lesson 2, where we are continuing to practice our place value understanding.